here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
I don't know, guys. This whole thing sounds pre-recorded.
Well, we're back for another episode of the Weather Report, and we're still here with the great John Jamingo for our next.
Great. I don't know if we said great.
I call you the
John Jamingo. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Or John the Don, if you want to call
me,
John the Don.
You're making me blush. Thank you.
But we were talking. We were talking in between shows about other shows, other podcasts that we listen to, and one of them is Aaron Deschatel's podcast, the I Had to Say It podcast. And we were commenting about. Go ahead.
Just got to say, okay, it's been a week and you guys are still wearing the same damn clothes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The shirt
once in a while.
To be honest with you, every time you see me, I'm in a black T-shirt. So,
you know what? Hey, I got this from Jason Stapleton, because anytime you see Jason Stapleton on his program, he's got that background that he always used, and he always has on a black shirt. It has to do with something about podcasts, and I'm sure it is, or being on camera. I don't know what it is, but I've wore a black shirt for almost every podcast that I've been on.
Well, I wear it because it's slimming.
We were talking about Aaron's podcast and how he's got a solo podcast where he actually just talks for like, you know, anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes, depending on what his show is. And he's just one big breath. And it's an art doing a podcast like that. And, you know, continuing on with our podcast conversation that we're having, there's an art to doing that. And for anybody to get online and just keep going on. I mean, we have one of our old co-hosts that couldn't listen to his podcast because he'd leave angry, but that's a compliment to the content that he has and the form that he does, is because when you get a person that can identify and get emotional about a podcast, that's really kind of valuable.
I agree. I mean, for the longest time, one of the podcast formats that I could not do was a monologue podcast. And so I decided one day, well, the only way to do this is just to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. So I started a show called The Daily Jamingo, and I did it every day. And I said, listen, I'll give you half an hour, anything over a half an hour. And I got to be honest with you, when I first started doing it, I had like tunnel vision and I couldn't really see the chat because I did it live. Of course, you got to do it live. And I did it with the chat, and I couldn't even pay attention to the chat because I was everything seemed like it was going so fast. And then the more I did it, like after about a week, things slowed down where I could look at the chat, and it actually slowed down where I could actually do it. Guys that do this every day for 2 hours a day, my hat's off to you to get that much content and come out here and talk for 2 hours a day. That's tough. So God bless Aaron. I mean, I listened to his show, and at one time I was like, man, this guy doesn't even breathe. How does he do this?
You know, something about Aaron, growing up with him, he was always in the enrichment advanced classes. So he's always been intelligent and smart and just been able to go off on a tangent like he does. Always been that way. Like I said, I've known him since I was in first grade.
Yeah. So John, your content on your podcast is unique because of your personality and your experiences and the shock value that you lend to the show. Did that come naturally? Did that evolve, or have you been that through all your podcast career? How did that all start out? Because basically a lot of people that would tune into your show for the first time their eyes would be like, you know, but you have a unique style. I love your unique style because I got kind of that boomer dark humor too, where I feel that, you know, we should be able to say anything we want at any time, you know, and people just have to have thick skin and go with it. But how did that start for you? Was it from the beginning, or did you develop that over the years?
I got to be honest with you. It's just the way of living in New Jersey. In the Philadelphia area, it's kind of the way we are. My sister, when she was 19, she moved down south. And, she says when she comes back up here to visit, she feels normal. But when she's down in South Carolina, she feels, people want to put her on medication. And I just think it's the way you grow up and the way your family is. You'd walk in. Let's say you're doing something and you would walk in and you got like a cut on your face or something, and then your family would just make fun of you for like 20 minutes. How'd you get that cut on your face? Or if you had like a pimple between your eyes, you would be Cyclops for a week. Hey, what's going on, Cyclops? It's just that kind of thing and you had to keep up. You really had to keep up. So it's kind of a Jersey, New York, Boston thing, that whole Eastern corridor where you have that. And to me, the funniest jokes is when you say something and someone goes, oh, and then laughs. To me, the where you just shock them and then they laugh. That to me that's the funniest kind of comedy, and it's hard to do. And I think we've lost it since Obama. No, I think somewhere around 2012 where everybody was like, you can't be offended anymore. Oh, you can't say that. You're going to offend somebody. Who cares? Nobody hurt. Again, nobody got hurt. Nobody's ever got hurt from being offended. Nobody's like, what happens? Nothing. It's no big deal. Tighten up,
So kind of instead of a sticks and stones will break your bones, but go fuck yourself.
Those days.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I got the same kind of guys. I hang around a bunch of fisher guys that hang around every September, and if there's 25 of us, 30 of us that go up fishing in this canyon for a week. And if you don't have thick skin, you're just not going to make it, and,
broke back fishing. That's what
broke back fishing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was an elevator helper apprentice for 5 years. And for 5 years, you were a dumb mop. You were the dumbest person they ever met. And, you're on a construction site and, they just break your balls. It was fun. That's all. That was the entertainment, was to be able to break everybody's stones. And so you had to be able to keep up, because if they knew they could get to you, then it was worse. So that kind of mentality kind of moved over into podcasting. And I just like to go in and have fun and make people laugh. That's basically it. It's just a way of performing. It's funny because I think podcasting is harder than stand-up comedy, because when you do podcasting, once you do a joke or once you say something, you burn it. You can't use it again. Where stand-up comics, they work on the same joke, they work on the same, whatever they're going to use, the story or whatever, they keep working and honing it to make it funnier and funnier. You can't do that in podcasting. Once you say it once, you've burned it, and then the material's gone.
Yeah, I like my MO where I know that I hang around your Discord server a lot, and a lot of things that I'll say, I'll back up with a GIF or some other type of like old movie quote or something like that. It's one of the funnest things I like to do, kind of poke fun at a bunch of the people that I just met in the Discord server, because it's funny as hell. And we could talk about a couple of them if you want. I don't know if they all have aliases or whatever, but Professor Tom and Bob happen to be some of the guys that I most enjoy kind of poking at. Me and Tom have a rapport right now that we're poking at each other. What are some of your most famous guys that you like to poke fun or would like to say something or anything like that? I mean, you have a lot of interaction in there. So
well, the Discord server is a lot of the fans, and that's what I love. When part of the show, when we do live streaming, is the fans come in, and sometimes they'll be funny. Their jokes in the chat are funnier than me. So sometimes I say to them, hey, listen, I'm going to steal you. If you're in the chat and you put a joke out there, I just might steal it and not give you any credit for it, because that's so funny. I'm going to use it. Why am I giving you credit for it? So, and we have a lot of fun, when they come into the Discord server. And Tom's he's a broken toy. The reason the Backyard Podcast thing started was because he said he wanted to start a podcast. And, I'd say to Tom, okay, well, you should do this. And he's one of those guys, he's an Eeyore, it's like, oh, I can't do that, or, oh, bother. And finally I said, oh, you're I can't guy. Instead of a can do, you're a can't do. So he did one, just because I told him that you can't do this, and I said, by next week, if you don't have a podcast up, I'm gonna ridicule you again. And he did one episode that lasts about 5 minutes, where he just roasted me. and that's fun. I like that. I like that back and forth. If you can't take a joke, this is a tough business.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I'm on that, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I first started talking to John on the morning podcast.
Sorry.
When I went in hot after Jersey, and I just completely started making fun of Jersey, and John came after me, and man, it's like, yeah, I deserved every last little bit of it. But I mean, I kept up, and I didn't quit. I didn't drop out. I didn't say, the hell with you and quit. And I just kept up because I walked right into it and I deserved it. But yeah,
he did. And John, he did call me after that show and said, Ken, you're from Boston, which in the hierarchy of the East Coast is of course the top. So I was really the only one that could really denigrate Jersey the way it properly should have been. So I'm glad that you straightened them out, because these mud ducks in Minnesota need to get their shit together.
Right. Listen, as the hierarchy goes, the biggest assholes live in Boston.
You bet your ass.
Followed by New York and then Philadelphia area. Yes, that is the truth.
Massholes is a thing.
Exactly. It is 100%.
Like they say in New York, Massachusetts.
Right. And then when we did the election live stream, and Guido was in the stream and he was drinking, and he was sitting there with his vocal fry the whole time. I'm like, I can't go after this guy because I don't know him. He might be friends with somebody. Can't offend him, but boy, so after that live stream, they said, boy, I can't believe I've never seen you so restrained. You didn't go after him at all. And I said, I did a little bit. I started imitating him a little bit. And I said, okay, stop that. Don't do that. It's hard. You can't really just go after somebody you don't know yet.
It wouldn't stop Christian.
Yes. Right.
It's funny. I didn't even notice it.
I know. Because I think one time I think I called you Toby Queef or something like that, because they called you Nickelback.
I remember that.
Was funny.
I was drinking then.
Yes, you were very drunk, which was even more funny. It was even funnier.
I think we were all feeling pretty good about the end of the night. So,
and just to clarify, I've seen Christian very drunk. Man, that wasn't very drunk.
That wasn't even close.
That was just the start of the evening's happiness.
Well, I knew I was in trouble when I first came on, and there was a guy in a suit and tie. I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh yeah, that was Walter Hudson.
Walter Hudson.
Right. I said, "Oh my God, there's an actual real person on here," and
an actual real politician,
like a politician.
I've got a whole bunch of them that are good guys that we get on. So it's got a collection of politicians.
I think that Walter Hudson has kind of turned off some of the swearing. So I think once that kind of starts, then he kind of drops out.
Right.
Yeah, well, I know Shane Mecklin comes on and he doesn't care. He
doesn't give a fuck. Shane Mecklin was talking to us on the election night because he had to leave the bar to go out and smoke in his truck, and then he'd jump on with us, and then we talk to him about what's going on. Shane Mecklin is the unpolitician politician.
Yeah,
those guys are quiet.
I really like both of them. I really like Walter because he's the Republican Obama. He's very well spoken, but I also
I thought you meant he was married to a trans person. I'm sorry.
No. He's very well spoken, but I also like Shane Mecklin because he's just like the everyday person.
What will you say, Christian?
I was just gonna say, hold on a second, because I think Walter might be a little unhappy if we call him anything close to Obama.
That's true.
No,
he would use foul language. He would use foul language in that case.
I'm willing to bet so, but he's very well spoken and he speaks very eloquently like Obama does.
Well, and fearlessly, that's why he's blowing up on YouTube and all the shorts and little things, and they're being played all over the country, all over the world, because he's standing up to people in Minnesota, which is like, it's like California. You have no hope when you stand up, and right. He's the guy doing it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. John, so you were on with us for the election night coverage.
That was fun.
We went 5.5 hours. Was that by far the longest podcast you've ever been on? Because it was the longest podcast I've ever done.
There was one time where we decided that we were going to do a 48-hour podcast, and there was a bunch of people, and we would swap on and off. But I think the most I've ever done at one time was a 5-hour podcast, and it's with other people, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, and especially election night, you have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff coming in, and the results are coming in, and it's exciting. So that's you could do that. I mean, I saw someone that did that night that we did the election night. Someone did a whole night. They were on all night. They started at like 7:00, and they were on in 7:00 in the morning. They went 12 hours until it was. They're still counting votes in California. I'm like, gee, you guys can't count votes in California? And right now in Pennsylvania, they're like, yeah, well, we got votes that just came in. They're not postmarked, and the ballots aren't signed. And you know what? So we're just going to count them. And they're trying to put the senator for Bob Casey. They're trying to make him to win the election. And we're like, dude, how many more ballots are you going to count? How many more are you going to bring in? I mean, enough's enough.
It's the Common Core math. That's the problem.
The problem is the mail-in ballots. There's no reason why you can't have early voting for a week, and then you can have absentee ballots for handicapped people, but just don't mail ballots out to everybody. That's ridiculous. You should know exactly how many ballots are out, how many ballots can come back in. They have to be postmarked by 3 days before, and then that's it. And we're done here.
Suggesting we serialize every ballot?
Yes.
How would we do that?
I don't think that's possible. How would you ever get that many?
Every single dollar bill we've ever printed.
So every number on a dollar bill is different?
I know. Isn't it crazy?
We can't serialize the ballots.
My God. You're on to
Christian's
something
gone.
here.
He's done. He's done with us. He's at it.
No. Listen, to me, the most important thing in this country right now is to make sure that we all feel like our elections are not being rigged. How hard is that to do? I don't like the idea of having just one day, because something happens, your kid gets sick, you can't get there, the line's around the building. Here in New Jersey, they did it for a week beforehand, and they said they had 1,000 people in my area, 1,000 people an hour voting the whole week.
They did the same thing in Minnesota too.
Yeah.
I voted 2 days prior.
And then Kamala Harris, she won every state that there was no voter ID required.
Mm-hmm.
Every state that there was voter ID required, Trump won.
Every time I voted in Minnesota, this election.
Every time?
Yeah, every time I voted. I mean, as I was traveling around the metro area.
Okay.
It's kind of like you go to different Dunkin' Donuts to see which one, because Dunks are good and you want to check out the new Dunks. So as I'm voting through Minnesota this year, I found that same thing, and I was just waiting when I got to Wisconsin where I live, and they're like, "Can I see your ID?" I'm like, "Well, of course."
Yeah. I don't understand it. Like, well, the dumb people, they can't. I'm like, if you're too dumb to get an ID, you're too dumb to vote. And they're like, well, the blacks, they don't really get IDs. And then you go in and you see people interview, and they're like, what do you mean? I have an ID to get cigarettes. I got an ID to get alcohol. I have an ID I have ID. Don't blame it on us. It's not us.
John, there's a reason behind that. And the reason is because they don't want them to own guns.
Okay. Well, again, there's that little thing called the Constitution.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
That's actually been voted null and void in Minnesota.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Well, I voted early and vote often, so I mean that's how we got through in California, because they don't do IDs in California. But I was a little bit surprised when I went
John,
to do my vote.
You'll love this. In Minnesota, one of the reasons I moved out of that godforsaken state, you can vouch for people. So you can vote. You can walk into the polling place and register to vote right there. That's fine. If you don't have ID, someone else can vouch for you as long as they can prove that they're a voter, and you can vouch for 8 people.
My God!
No, it gets better. It gets better at a time. So there's buses that pull up in the cities, and I know because in 1988 this happened when I was in college, and they came to the school and they said, "Hey, you want to go vote? We're giving away cigarettes." So back then I smoked. They're like, "All right, fine, I'll go vote." And so I went and voted for Dukakis because I'm from Boston, and he was a friend of the family. And what did I know from Dukakis other than he was a friend of the family? And Acorn, remember Acorn? They came and they would go to the colleges, and this is the way they do it. They bribe us with like liquor and cigarettes and gift certificates to different places and bars and stuff like that. And then you get in the bus and they drive you to the polling station and you go vote. And they tell you who to vote for in the bus. And then people are like, oh, that didn't happen. I'm like, the fuck it didn't.
I can't remember who said this, and I think it's a great idea, that if you vote, you get a $250 deduction off your taxes. And if you don't vote, they give you a ticket for $25. So in other words, if you don't vote, you don't have to, but you're going to get fined $25. And if you do vote, you can deduct $250 off your taxes. And I thought that was a great way of getting people to actually go out and vote. The thing is, so then you get the constitutionalists say, well, you know what? I should have the right not to vote. You're right. You should.
Yeah.
Okay. So I understand that, but there should be some kind of incentive for you to go vote.
Yeah.
But then
the incentive is called civics class, and that's been not the incentive. It shouldn't be monetarily at all.
They haven't taught that since, I don't know, 1985.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do.
I was in school in '85. It was before that, but that they stopped teaching it because we didn't learn. And I went to school in Boston, and they just taught you, hey, Paul Revere made the fence on our graveyard. Isn't that great?
I pull plenty of people off the ceiling right now because of what they're saying and what they're doing. And I go like, well, did you vote? And they're like, no, I didn't vote. I'm like, I know. I don't want to say this rigged because it's not rigged. But I mean, George Carlin said it best, it's just like, they got you in here, I can paraphrase what he said, but he's all like, it's a great big club and you're not in it,
right?
And there's something to be said for that. But basically, I just really feel that you don't have a lot to say if you aren't part of the policy of voting. And like I said, I wasn't going to vote. It was these guys. It was Ken. It was Walter Hudson, and a couple of other people that got me to the polls this year. That got me to the polls this year.
Well, see, it's the same thing here in New Jersey. New Jersey's a blue state, so there's no sense in. I thought to myself, what's the difference if I vote or not? Well, the funny thing was that I talked to everybody I know, and I said, you got to go vote. You got to go vote. You got to go vote. And the county that I live in, we flipped it from Democrat to Republican. Yep. And it's the first time that's happened since Reagan.
Wow.
It's not hard to do that. It's just people have to get rid of the idea that my vote doesn't count. Why bother? It's just wasted. It's not. Your vote's wasted if no one else does it. But if you can gather some people, get 10 people to go and vote. My goal is to get 10 people that weren't going to vote. And I got 25 people that weren't going to go vote. I
was one of them.
Two of them are here.
Exactly. Yeah. Do them here.
If you tell two friends and they tell two friends.
Yeah. So I have to say that sometimes I say, okay, well, everybody should vote. But then again, I think to myself, maybe you should have to take a test. You should have to take a test to qualify the vote. Like, in other words, I don't think that people just come in and say, well, who, where, what? I think you should have to know a little bit about something.
Yeah. Who administers the test? That's the problem I have. It's the test is only as good as who administers it. And so
I guess
I just wholly disagree with that whole notion because of that, because I know that it's like suing the government. If the government does something to you and you're going to sue them, you're literally using their own system to try and sue them. It's not going to work. And it almost never does.
But then you have morons that are out there voting that have no idea what they're voting for.
Right.
And, and again, I have to blame the mainstream media for the simple fact that you shouldn't be able to lie. You should not be able to lie. First of all, you should not be able to lie as a candidate.
Right.
And you shouldn't be able to lie if you're a news program. And what they did to Trump this year was horrific. I mean, they called him Hitler. I mean, I saw Michael Clark Duncan on MSNBC. I mean, Joy Reid on MSNBC, where she was sitting there and she was saying that he's Hitler and he's Stalin and he's Putin and he's Pope. And they got all these pictures. I'm like, how do they get away with that? How's the network not sued? I mean, it's a flat out lie.
Yeah. Mm. So as far as content, we'll get back to the podcasting realm because we're just talking about politics right now. But I mean, a lot of us talked about politics during our podcast, and I know you do, John, and you have content that you use as kind of a shock value. But I think in the same token, we all have a responsibility as we're podcasters to inform people about what's going on. One of the most hilarious things about your podcast is that you pull, current clips out of the X or wherever you get them, and you basically poke fun of them and make fun of them, but it makes you realize how much lunacy is out there with whatever the subject may be. The election's passed. Okay, so we don't have to talk about the election anymore, but we've got the fallout from the election. We've got the upcoming inauguration. We've got even farther than that, which is going to just keep producing more content for us. And I think as a responsible a podcaster, you got to keep going and you got to keep sending the message out. And I think that's important.
Well, right now I'm stuck on. They just had a committee hearing in Congress where they were talking about, guess what? There's aliens, and we have them, and I'm like, and nobody's talking about it. I'm like, what? And yeah, there's a whole alien base that's underwater over in right off the coast of Mexico. There's a little island there, and Guadalupe, and I'm like, what? And then they're like, yeah, and you used to be able to look at Google Earth and you could see it, and then Google, like, they blurred it out, and I'm just sitting there, and then they talk about Antarctica, and do you guys remember? I forget, it was like a year or so ago that all of a sudden in Miami, like all the police had to go to this one mall, and they said it was a bunch of kids that were fighting there.
Yeah.
But then they said that wasn't what happened. A portal opened up, and these 7-foot beings came out and were walking, and then it was like just dropped. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. So then someone said, okay, well, what they did was they took the coordinates, the GPS coordinates from the mall, and they flipped them. And when you flip them, it sends it to Antarctica. If you flip them, put it back in, it's in Antarctica. So what they think they did was there's some kind of wormhole that they used to bring these beings in. And some nitwit put the wrong ones in, and they sent these beings into a mall in Miami or Fort Lauderdale when they should have went to Antarctica. And like everybody's like, no, that's all. I'm like, there was people screaming and running out of there. Some guys were packing heat, and they were shooting at them. And they had black helicopters up jamming everybody's phones. And it just, nobody talks about it anymore, and it's no big deal.
When the aliens call tech support, do they get a person who bobs their head and is tough to understand?
I don't think aliens have to call tech support, to be quite honest with you. If the thing is, why can't, if there are really aliens, why can't we know now? We're smart enough to handle it. Don't you think we're smart enough to handle it now?
We weren't smart enough to handle COVID.
No, I don't think we're ready for that yet.
We were smart enough to handle it in '79 when when Leonard Nimoy had his TV show on. We could have handled it then. I think now it would break everybody.
In Search of. I remember that show, In Search of.
When he had a show on global cooling that scared me to my core. I'm like,
remember when he had his song?
What did you just say about him?
Remember his song that he sung? Bilbo Baggins.
If I had a hammer.
No, the song that Leonard Nimoy had about Bilbo Baggins.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you had one of those too.
I don't need that.
You need a lot of drugs.
I hate when my Bilbo's bagging.
So John, do you subscribe to the UFO theory that there is aliens out there and that we have been visited and we're being visited, or Area 51, that whole bit?
I believe that there's too much evidence that we've been visited. And the other thing is, if the universe is as vast as it is, and we're the only life, that's a big waste of space.
Yeah,
there has to be life somewhere else out there. Now the thing is, and again, this is where everybody put your tinfoil hat on. The thing is that if they find out that there are aliens out there, and then the next thing you know, that comes out that there is no God and Jesus was an alien, because you could think if there was an alien that came out and was walking and you got the halo, which could have been something that he was wearing or whatever, and then all of a sudden religion goes away, then what happens? Because
there's no control.
There's no
There's
control.
no control.
They made a movie about it. It's called The Purge.
Oh, well, yeah. So then what do you do there? I think that, I'll be honest with you, I do believe that even if they came out and said tomorrow, you know what, it's all bullshit, and the Bible was just to keep the people under control and all that, people still wouldn't believe. Some would, some wouldn't. Some would still, they wouldn't be able to handle it, and they would still believe in it. I don't know what to say, but to me, what scares me the most now is AI. Yes, AI is great right now. It's fantastic because it does some things, but pretty soon we won't be able to control it because it's going to be smarter than us. And then what happens?
Exactly. Well, it goes to be said. I mean, with the alien thing and everything, it's just like, and maybe God not even being real. I mean, we had 15 million votes that just automatically disappear. So now they're talking about the rapture happened. So,
oh, that's right. That's right. 15 million people, all Democrats, were raptured into the ether. They just, they were gone.
Well, maybe those 15,000 people or 15 million people, maybe they all died from the COVID vaccine.
Or maybe they were already dead and they voted as dead people.
There
maybe.
you go.
I don't know.
Ken?
The alien question, the question that no one ever. So when I think about aliens, it's like, first of all, I agree. I think there's something else out there. I think there's other worlds, and I think there's aliens. My question is, are they tasty, and should we hunt them?
Hey, listen, you better hope you're not
Bacon.
tasty. That's what I'm saying. What if we're the tasty ones?
We all think that it's War of the Worlds, and they're going to come down here and hunt and rape and pillage our. But what if they're good? What if they're like super chicken or something like that cures cancer and fuck all?
What if they love
now
human?
We're talking.
I'm like Kobe beef to them right now. I'm soft and fat. I'll be hiding.
That actually sounds pretty good. I might go a little cannibal if you keep talking like that.
See? That's what I'm saying.
A good Jamingo steak. I hear that's it's a delicacy.
Oh my God. It's like $200 an ounce.
Yeah.
I like to think more of the alien kind of conspiracy to be more like that movie They Live with Roddy Piper. I think that's the one that I like to subscribe to, that they're living among us and we just don't know, or we can't tell, or anything like that, because there's got to, I mean, look,
they're all Democrats. Come on.
It could be.
I'm just thinking that if aliens were smart, they would come in as cats. They get fed, people take care of them. They can observe human people. And if you ever really known cats, they're assholes. Cats are assholes. They knock shit over. It's not like a dog.
So I got a comment about that. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the cats are actually Florgans, and they are aliens.
See?
In what was that? The Will Smith one? The
Men in Black.
Men in Black. Yeah, they had a lot of cats in there too.
See?
Yeah.
I think you're onto something, John. I'm with you on this.
Mm-hmm. It very well could be, because it was in Captain Marvel, and it was in the second Captain Marvel also. The Florgans came in, and they were cats that were the aliens.
So what color skirt do you wear when you play D&D?
Tell me you play Maddk the Gathering without telling me you play Maddk the Gathering.
We rolled our eyes. We rolled our eyes because Jason's the only one left that actually talks to the Marvel universe or does all that stuff.
I enjoy the movies. I enjoy the hell out of the movies, but I couldn't tell you who's who and what this is that.
See, and I could.
They're all over me. They're all over me because I haven't, got caught up in all the superhero movies, and I haven't watched. I watched The Matrix 1, and then I watched The Matrix 2, and I went like, forget this.
So I have a story about podcast. I can bring this into podcast editing. So a guy calls me up and he says, "Hey, I got this podcast. I need an editor." I said, "Okay, fine." He says, "How do you do it?" And I give him the whole spiel. I said, "You send me the audio, blah, blah." Okay. So I get the podcast and I do it. And it's a podcast about Maddk the Gathering. This is like I know, 8 years ago. So I'm editing this podcast. At first, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was a card game. He's like, they're talking about this. I said, what is this? Is it a game? Is it a role play thing? I didn't know it was a card game. And it took me like 6 or 7 episodes to figure out that it was actually a card game. And the thing about Magic the Gathering is it's almost like poker. Like these guys go and do tournaments and there's money involved in all this stuff and they've got different decks and all. And I'm like, listen, I play a lot of Texas Hold'em and I can't even imagine if we had to play with different decks and stuff like that. I mean, I get beat regularly playing Texas Hold'em. And if you have more than one deck, I would quit. Yeah. But I mean, that's just like these games that they have and these role plays and stuff like that. Okay. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
The only role thing I like is D&D.
See, nail it.
I played that one time and I was like halfway through it. I was like, okay, I've had enough of this.
I'm a bleeder when it comes to Texas Hold'em. I'm that guy that just, I'd never know when to shove everything forward, and you could just bleed me out within about 10 hands and I'm done.
I've played since 2004, and I love the game. To me, it's like playing chess, but you can't see the other people's pieces. And the more that you play and the better that you get, the more the game opens up. And to me, it's it's addicting, to be honest with you. And the thing about it is that I know they play for money, but to me, money takes the fun out of it. Like, I don't like losing money, but I love playing Texas Hold'em. So even now, we wear the headset, the Oculus headset, and they have a casino called Vegas. It's Vegas something. Anyhow, you can go in there and you can play, and it's like playing real poker because you got the headset on and you're sitting there with 8 other people playing, and you can watch them and you can pick up tells and you can see the cards and stuff, and it's amazing. But yeah, so Magic the Gathering took me a little while I still don't understand it. I tried playing it one time and I said, that's enough of this.
Yeah, I do better if I could see the odds, what everybody has, then I do real good then. But I'm such
a poker nerd that I actually watch when other people play, like with the World Series of Poker. That's my, it's like my Super Bowl. Like you go and you watch them and you watch them play the main event, which is a $10,000 buy-in, and there's like 7,000 people to start to play, and they play down until there's one person has all the chips. It takes days to do it.
Yeah.
So
I only watch when Marissa Tomei is on there because she's a babe.
Oh, yeah.
She was my favorite Texas Hold'em player when you would watch those shows, because she'd stay in there pretty good. She's a pretty good poker player, man. And there's a lot of good women poker players out there.
There is.
So, you see them out there.
This year they had one. She was from Canada, and she made it to the final 3 tables, and she was vicious. And the thing is, women are very good at playing poker because they're very good at reading people, and they can read when you're weak or strong. And if she felt you were weak or you were bluffing, she could sniff it right out. She did real well. So it's one of the games where women can play as well as a man, if not better than a man.
There you go. Do you listen to any or see any poker podcasts that you like, or not into that?
It's funny. I tried to find some poker podcasts. There's one poker player who's my favorite poker player. His name's Daniel Negreanu, and right now he has a new show where he talks. He's got his wife's. Him and his wife are doing a show together, and I watched a lot of his stuff when he talks about poker, but it's not. I don't think it really translates well to podcasting. Mm-hmm. I think it's more of a visual thing that you need. So it's tough. No, I really haven't found one that I like.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of math involved, right?
There's a ton of math.
Yeah. I kind of figured that because because when you're watching it on TV, they give you the odds and everything, and then they show you the cards, and you're just going like, I'm trying to figure it out, but I am not that smart. I think I'm a genius in some things, man, but I just can't figure out Texas Hold'em. So whenever somebody at the fishing trip says, let's play Texas Hold'em, I'm all like, I'm going to go drink by the freaking campfire. You guys have fun.
We started a league in 2004. I had like 5 or 6 friends of ours. And we started a league, and every once a month we would have 24 players come to somebody's house. We would all take turns, and they would put out a spread of food, and you would put $25 in, and you have 24 people put in 25 hours, and you would split the pot between 3 people, and you would play, and you play two tournaments a night, and it was a lot of fun. And we did it for like, I don't know, like 10 years. We were playing every night, and they were still doing it up until COVID. I dropped out because, I don't know, there was at one point they had a lot of people in there that it was tough to play with, and it was just the personalities that you play with, and I'd have had enough of them. So I said, okay, I'm going to go find somebody else.
Let's talk about personalities, because you've had a couple of co-hosts and you probably had a couple of guests that you've had on that you kind of looked at and just went like, there's got to be a quality in there of people that you have to, I don't say you have to get along, but there could be a part of the podcast where you just go like, I gotta sit back here and reevaluate what I'm doing here. Have you ever gotten into that situation where you're kind of uncomfortable inviting somebody on and then going like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this?
I don't really think I've had a problem with guests, but I have had problems with co-hosts. And the issue is because it's me. I have a certain standard that I want to live up to. To me, when you're podcasting, it's all about the audience. In other words, somebody's giving up an hour of their time or whatever to listen to you, and you want to give them a good product. And one of the things with Bob was that we would come in and I would talk like we're doing now, and I would throw it to him, and he would sit there and stare at me and blink and not say anything. And I would launch into a tirade like, what are we doing here? Or the one time we started the show and he was having technical difficulties, and I'm like, can you hear me, Bob? And he's just sitting there and he's playing the music, Girl from Empanada.
Ipanema.
Yeah, that's the one. I always call Girl from Empanada because I'm from Jersey.
Yeah,
And I can't
I say
pronounce words.
Empanada too.
Right. So, and he's sitting there staring at me, and I'm like, can you hear me? And he's still staring at me. So now I can't tell if he's hearing me. And we're live. People are watching this. And then I launch in and I attack him for like fifth. And then I'm like, okay, you run the show. And I'm sitting there. And then he starts talking about, well, it wasn't my fault. I'm like, no one cares. No one cares. Start the show. Get to a story. And I look like a lunatic. But people enjoy me looking like a lunatic at time.
I'll have to tell you, the last couple of shows you have run your rants. In fact, the last 2 shows you've run your rant, and it's the funniest thing that I've ever heard in my life.
Well, okay, so one of the things that podcasting has taught me is not to take myself so seriously.
Yeah.
On other people's shows. If their show, you go with the flow. For me, I believe that I have a certain standard that I want to podcast with. And, I do a show. And if I feel like somebody's messing around and trying to do things on purpose, I lose my mind. Like I go insane. But it has taught me to calm down a little bit more than when I used to do.
Yeah, we have that same kind of dichotomy here at the during the X spaces that Jason will come on and he'll rib me a whole bunch, and sometimes I've made that mistake of getting his mic on first before I came on, and then I have to pay the price. But it's all in fun,
Yep.
and I think it just adds to the podcast. I really do.
Have you found a topic that's too taboo that you can't really talk about? I have one: abortion. You cannot talk about abortion because it's so passionate on both sides.
It is.
And for me, I go to the point where I'm a big guy. I'm a big believer in freedom. So I say, if you don't want to have one, don't have one. Why do you want to enforce? And they go, well, you're killing a baby. I'm like, fine, I'm killing a baby. I'll take that. Up until 3 months, I could kill a baby. And then it just ensues. And one of my friends, who's been my friend since Deuce from Brand X, last time we got loaded on old fashions, and we got into abortion. And it's the last time we've had a podcast because he took the summer off. And I hope I didn't ruin a friendship again. I got into a thing with Deuce where we didn't podcast for 4 years. The show was over. We did like 102 episodes, and the show was over. And then finally we were talking, and he says, let's do it. We'll do it once a month. We'll drink. We'll have something to eat. And it was so much fun for having him to come back. And we were doing the show. And damn it, if we didn't get into that stupid topic again.
Yeah.
And
I kind of went with my Facebook has been not my brand, but it's been my heart on my sleeve soapbox. And I think it was like the first or second show that I heard from you. I quoted you on your abortion stance with, pulling out the baby, beating it with the bat. It did not go over well.
No,
I thought for the context that was set in, it was perfect because it set the essence of what it should have, what it meant. And what it meant was the single version or the single policy of an election that has been slammed over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and they hold it over your head like this little virtue little chain that they have, this like whoops, and to me, that quote that I quoted from you was perfect. And I can't say it anymore. Was it crude? Yeah. Was it all over the top? Yeah, sure it was.
Did it make a point?
You cannot get people's attention unless you slap them across the head with it sometimes.
Yes. I've got it.
And that goes for any subject.
Well, I get into trouble with Dutchess sometimes when we talk, especially because I believe the biggest scourge of the United States is liberal white women. Not liberal white women, leftist white women. I think they're the scourge of the country, and I think they're going to take the country down. And, I say that, she rolls her eyes at me, but time after time, I can prove it. I can prove it by listening to them talk. And I'm not saying that Dutch is that way, and I'm not saying that all women are that way. I'm saying that there's a lot of women that way. Yeah. I don't know.
She takes it on the chin, and she's a real good sport about it.
Well, she's
able to respond, and she's able to respond. So that's what makes it all work.
But then again, like I say, when I'm talking about women, I'm not talking about her. But immediately as soon as I say women, then she feels like she has to defend all women. I'm like, don't do that. Yeah. Don't go down in the mud with them.
All men.
That's just like what a woman would do.
Yes.
I said it.
Well, John, I want to be respectful for your time, man. So we're going to cut this down, and I've got a little bit of editing to do myself after I'm done here. And I just want to thank you for being on our show. And
thank you for inviting me. I'll come back anytime you guys want to.
Great time, John.
Batter it around.
Yeah, definitely a great time.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, man, anytime you want to come on, you're fine. We're on X. You're always invited to come on X. I know you come in there and I invite you to speak, and sometimes you just kick back and listen, which is cool. But like I said, thank you for being here. Boomer Bunker is the name of his podcast, and we're going to get going. And you guys do that, like, share, and subscribe, especially go to boomerbunker.com. That is his website. Let me pull that up on the banner here. I think I still have it on the banner here. Let's see. Boomerbunker.com is where you can go get his stuff. You can go over to Ken at Maddk Studio. We're going to do everybody's little shot here. So we'll give Jason the first crack at it. What do you got, Jason?
Wow. Well, thanks.
Have you had enough vodka yet?
Was that?
Have you had enough vodka yet?
Yes, I have. Yeah, go to horribledesigns.com. I've got many different things available. Mouse pads, coffee mugs, or as Bruce calls them, saucers.
You should write this down, Jason, so you can go right. You don't have to think about it. Just write it down. Get yourself a little bullet list there.
Yeah, I really should have it written down. Vinyl decals, stickers, magnets, coffee mugs, as I said, tumblers, like the one I've been drinking out of tonight.
There you go.
I don't know.
There you go.
Go to Ken.
Yeah, good.
Just go to horribledesigns.com.
Horribledesigns.com, your one-stop shop for all of the kitchen stuff that you need in your so that's what you need, Jason. Do one of those.
Yeah,
I've got
just
the thoughts.
Ken do your plug.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So you have a house, right, Jason? You live in a house. I've been to it. You got that one wall. You just said, what the hell are you going to do there? It's just this plain ass wall. And you put something up there that sucks. Or a wreath at Christmas and then a little Halloween decoration, blah, blah, blah. So what you really need is a custom piece of artwork that is custom designed for you and your home. It could be of your home, your dog, your pet, your car, your wife. No matter what, you can go to maddkstudio.com and I can take care of that wall. So when people come in, that's the talk. They're like, my God, where did you get that thing? Well, maddkstudio.com. Go there.
Silent Bob. Sound like Guido.
I think Ken's going to do my my plugs from now on.
One more shot, John, before we go.
All right, Mondays and Thursdays, 6:30 Eastern time, the Boomer Bunker we do live. If not, you can always get it as an audio podcast, and we would love to have you. Go to the show notes, has all our socials, follow us, is our Discord, come into our Discord, mess with Professor Tom. It's fun.
Like, share, and subscribe this podcast to all your friends, especially your enemies, because they will love our content every time and everywhere. And join us tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock on X Spaces, where we'll be on my way to work, and we'll be talking with all the rest of the clowns that you have here and some that are not here. But again, 6 a.m.
Pacific.
6 a.m. Pacific time. I'm on the right coast, because if you're looking from Canada, I'm on the right-hand side. If you're looking from Mexico, I'm on the left-hand side. So anyway, I'll leave you like I leave you guys every day. Have a great night and be good to yourselves. We'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye.